Ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something very important. Many people think cash is safe. You put it in your pocket, in the bank. You feel secure. But let me ask you, if your money today buys 10 bowls of noodles and next year it buys only 7 bowls, is that safe? Cash is like ice. It melts in your hand. So if you want to protect your future, you need stronger assets. Today, I will share with you 7 assets that are safer than cash. Remember them, and maybe one day they will protect you. The number 1 asset I want to share is gold and precious metals. Why gold? Why precious metal? For thousands of years, dynasties rise and fall, currencies disappear, but gold is still alive. I don't buy gold to become rich. I buy gold so that I don't become poor. It is insurance. Silver, platinum, yes, but gold is the king of safety. When people lose faith in paper, they always trust gold. Number 2, government bonds, especially US Treasuries. Now, many young people tell me, Jack, bonds are boring. Yes, bonds are boring, but boring is good. When the market is crazy, when banks collapse, when your neighbor is losing half his money in stocks, the people who bought bonds are sitting quietly, drinking tea and sleeping well. You see, bonds don't make you rich overnight. They will not double your money tomorrow, but they are like a safe chair in a storm. When the wind blows, when the rain comes, you don't want a fancy chair that flies away. You want a strong, heavy chair that doesn't move. That is what government bonds are, especially US Treasuries. Why? Because the US government has one of the strongest records of paying back its debt. Some people say, what if the government defaults? If the US defaults, my friend, then every bank, every company in the world is already in trouble. If that happens, no asset is safe. Treasuries are like the anchor of the financial system. Let me give you a picture. In 2008 financial crisis, banks failing, Lehman Brothers gone. Where did the money run? Not to cash, not to gold at first. It ran into US bonds. Why? Because the whole world believed the American government will still pay tomorrow. So yes, they are boring, but let me ask you, when you get older, when you have a family, do you want your future to be exciting every day? Number, you want peace of mind. Sometimes boring is much safer than exciting. That is why government bonds are safer than cash. Number 3, real estate, land, property, and house. Remember this, governments can print money, but they cannot print land. You can build more house. You can build more apartments, but the land underneath is always limited. Think about cities. 20 years ago, many people said, oh, this land is too expensive. I cannot buy. 10 years later, they look back and say, I should have bought. The best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The second best time is today. Real estate is like that. Yes, the price goes up, the price goes down. Sometimes there is a bubble. Sometimes people lose money in the short term. But look at the long term. People always need a place to live. Families grow. Cities expand. Populations move from countryside to urban areas. That demand does not disappear. When you buy real estate, you are not only buying walls and windows, you are buying a piece of the future. Maybe you live there, maybe you rent it, maybe you hold it for your children. But it is something solid. You can touch it, you can stand on it. In China, in America, in Europe, every crisis shows one thing. People who hold only cash often lose value. But people who hold good land in good locations always recover. Of course, I am not saying buy blindly. Location is important, timing is important, but one truth never changes: land is scarce. And scarcity makes it safer than cash. So, my friends, if you want something stronger than paper money, look at real estate. It is not perfect, but in the long run, it is one of the safest homes for your wealth. Number 4, strong businesses. Blue chip stocks, index funds. Now, let me ask you, if you put $100 under your mattress for 20 years, what happens? You will still have $100, but it will buy you less and less. Maybe today it buys a nice dinner. In 20 years, maybe only one sandwich. Cash sits there and does nothing. But a company works for you. It wakes up every morning, it makes products, it hires people, it sells things. It expands to new markets. That is why investing in strong companies is safer than holding cash. Blue chip stocks. These are not small gambling companies. These are giants. Coca-Cola, Microsoft, Apple, Toyota. Companies that have survived crises, wars, hyperinflation, even technological revolutions. When you invest in them, you are trusting not just one person, but thousands of employees, millions of customers, decades of history. And if you don't want to choose individual companies, index funds, the S&P 500 inches America, for example. It's like owning a piece of 500 of the biggest companies at once. One company fails, another rises. The index keeps growing. History shows this clearly. Over the last century, despite wars, recessions, pandemics, the US stock market grew more than 0%. Imagine your grandfather $100 invest in the index fund. Could be worth $1 million today. But if he kept it in cash, it is still only $100, shrinking every year. So remember this, cash is lazy, but companies are hardworking. If you want your money to work while you sleep, invest in strong businesses. That is why $100 in a strong index multiplies while $100 in cash melts away. Number 5, commodities, food, energy, raw materials. Let me tell you something, my friends. In good times, everybody loves paper money. But in crisis, money is just paper. You cannot eat money. You cannot warm your family with money. But oil, wheat, rice, copper, these are the things that keep life going. Think about history. In war, what do people rush to? They were not rushed to buy stocks, not even buy gold first. They rushed to buy food. to fuel to the basic things that keep them alive. When money fails, one bag of rice can be worth more than a suitcase of cash. I remember during the Asian financial crisis in 1997, many people saw their savings destroyed overnight. Their local currencies collapsed against the dollar. But farmers who had rice, people who had oil in storage, they still had power because commodities are real. Oil drives the trucks, powers the factories, wheat feeds the people, copper builds the houses and wires the electricity. These are not luxuries. These are the foundation of civilization. And this is the lesson. When currencies fall, when central banks print too much, commodities remind us that value is not what's printed on paper. Value is in the things that build, feed, and fuel our world. So yes, commodities can be volatile. Prices rise and fall. But in the end, when the world is uncertain, real things, food, energy, resources, are always safer than cash. Number 6, cryptocurrency. Now this one, very controversial. Some people love it. Some people hate it. When I first heard about Bitcoin, I thought this is crazy. How can money exist on a computer? How can you trust something you cannot touch? But then I remember 20 years ago, when I told people to use the internet to buy things, they said I was crazy. So my friends, sometimes crazy ideas are the future. Now, let's be honest. Cryptocurrency is not perfect. It is volatile. One day, the price goes up like a rocket. Next day, it crashes like a falling stone. If you invest all your savings, you may lose sleep. But here's the interesting part. Bitcoin has one thing that cash does not. It is scarcity. Governments can print trillions of dollars, yuan, euro, anytime they want. But Bitcoin, the supply is limited, only 21 million, forever. That is why some people call it digital gold. In countries with strong currencies, maybe you don't see the value. But imagine places where inflation is crazy, where people line up with bags of cash to buy one loaf of bread. In those places, cryptocurrency becomes more than speculation. It becomes survival, a way to escape broken systems. Of course, we must be careful. There are scams. There are bad projects. And technology is still developing. But my point is, compared to holding cash that melts away, some people believe crypto is safer. And maybe, just maybe, in the future, our children will look back and laugh at us. They will say, how did you carry paper money in your wallet? Why didn't you use digital? So I don't say put all your money in crypto number, but I say keep your eyes open. Because like the internet, what seems crazy today may shape the world tomorrow. Finally, number 7, productive businesses. Now, listen carefully. This one, I believe, is the most powerful asset of all. Gold is good. Bonds are safe. Real estate is solid. But businesses create the future. Cash sits there and does nothing. But a business, A business wakes up every morning and works for you. It sells products, serves customers, creates jobs, builds value. That is why the richest people in the world are not people holding piles of cash. They are people building businesses. Think about it. Amazon started in a garage with books. Today, it is one of the biggest companies in the world. Apple almost went bankrupt in the 1990 seconds. Today, it is worth more than some countries. These businesses didn't just protect value, they created it. And even small businesses, the restaurant on the corner, the shop in your neighborhood, they are safer than cash. Why? Because they can adapt. If prices go up, they adjust. If customer needs change, they pivot. Cash cannot do that. During inflation, during crisis, businesses can raise prices, cut cost, innovate. Cash cannot. Cash melts. Businesses grow. When I was building Alibaba, many people told me, Jack, keep your money safe in the bank. But if I had to listen, I would have nothing today. Because banks give you interest, but businesses give you possibilities. So, my friends, if you want to protect your wealth, don't only look at what you can buy. Look at what you can build. That is why owning or investing in productive businesses is the greatest protection against time, against inflation, against uncertainty. Because businesses are alive, they grow, they fight, they survive. And in the end, they give you more than safety. They give you legacy. Now, you know cash feels safe, but it melts away. If you want a true safety, look to the pillars. Gold, bonds, real estate, stocks, commodities, cryptocurrency, and businesses. These are the rocks that stand strong when paper money turns to water. So I leave you with this question. Are you holding ice? Or are you building your future on solid ground? Thank you.